let's follow up on that thought a little bit. So let's presume that we are going to have 50-50 custody as a new starting point. If you can think of like a recent case, maybe obviously without names or anything, that maybe how would 50-50, if it was the starting point of the conversation, how would it have benefited you as an attorney with what you would consider a common experience in family law?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, the number one way to fight, the abuse of alienation and whatnot and bad mouthing is time. If you have 50-50 right off the bat, immediately you're taking away that other parent's ability to get into that kid's head with all the things they're going to do. They're still going to do it, but you now have at least the physical child with you to start combating some of those things. I'm a big fan and tell my clients a lot of the times, get yourself into a psychologist as well. Say, hey, how do I deal with and combat, parental alienation or a difficult parent? They'll help you, give you some tips, especially with some younger children. But children get it. I mean, especially with fighting it with time, they're going to hear all these horrible things one parent is saying about the other. But then when they're spending that 50% of the time with that other parent, they're going to say, you know what? I don't see those things. So someone's got to be lying to me. And they figure it out. But the absolute key is that 50-50 time. And if you don't have it right away, you've got to file your motion for temporary custody immediately to get it, because one of the biggest things is combating that with extra time.
One example of how parents and the children ultimately, of course, suffer from the way the systems are in most states is that parents who do the alienating in a perverse way are actually being rewarded for it, because the longer they keep a child or children from the other parent, it doesn't matter what their motives are. It could be a false domestic violence allegation, it could be claiming that the other parent's crazy, whatever. If that child ends up de facto staying with that parent for several months at a time, the judge, even though the judge may frown upon what that parent is doing, he's still going to be reluctant to immediately go back to 50-50 or impose 50-50 because of the rationale, well, the child needs time to transition into 50-50. The longer the period of alienation, ironically, the more the alienating parent gets rewarded for it. I've seen that happen countless times. That's happened so often, it's become cliche in family law.
I'll add something. What these lawyers here are saying is supported by the science. I encourage you to look up Dr. Edward Crook, K-R-U-K, and that connects to the legislation that I urge you to ask your legislators to update and modernize. What these psychologists are saying is that the time is used to abuse. So Edward Crook, 2018, in a very important publication called Parent Alienation as a Form of Emotional Child Abuse, the Current State of Knowledge and Directions for Future Research, and that's in Family Science Review. He says that the amount of parenting time that has been allocated or the court order to the targeted parent can be used as a liability by the aggressor parent. So when you have a pathological parent, they're gonna abuse the time that's been given to them. And they go on. These scientists are saying that the legal system becomes an instrument of the abuse. So, for example, there's a strong association between legal child custody determination processes and emergence of parent alienation. Since parent alienation flourishes in situations where one parent has exclusive care and control of children after parent separation. So the system itself has it baked in to help abusers. And again, that's why at the beginning, I said this is a child protection issue. So my hope is that when you need to go, one more urging, and I'll be quiet for a moment, is that you get off Facebook. Stop complaining on Facebook and complain to your legislators. And you're nodding your head. Thank you. And don't just complain to your legislator alone. Complain to your legislators as a group, and not only as a group of, like, here, but go get other people in different organizations. Talk to them about the science and say, look, we are hurting children. Do you support that? No, of course you don't. Join me. Write this letter with me to the legislator as my pastor, or as the pastor down the street, or as a collection of 5 pastors in your district. You don't have to go across the whole state trying to find somebody. Go in your own zip code and ask for meetings with that pastor or rabbi or monk, and ask them for 30 minutes, bring the science to them, show them a video from Ginger Gentile, Erasing Family, and say, will you write this email with me to Tom Pischke? And then the legislator will pay more attention to you. And over months and months, you start building those coalitions, and eventually they're going to have to vote your way or lose their job.
So starting at a point of 50-50 is extremely beneficial because it levels the playing field. So if we have several different judges, of course, several different counties. Some judges will automatically enter an order saying 50-50 custody, maintain status quo as far as paying expenses. Other judges won't do anything. Some judges will say, literally, it's just arbitrary. Whoever has the child when this order was entered, they're the primary custodian, and the other one gets every other weekend. It's that arbitrary. So what 50-50 custody right off the gate does is levels the playing field, because what happens when one parent gets custody over the other, one becomes queen bee throughout the the process, and the other one becomes a footnote. And children see this. I mean, they start to see, well, Dad, I don't know if I can do that. I got to ask Mom. I got to check with Mom first. So, children will know, well, Mom makes the rules. Hey, Dad, I can't do that because it's not your time. It's not your visitation period. So, kids even pick up on that. So, by 50-50 right out the gate, it levels the playing field, and children are free to go back and forth, because this is what happens too. Sometimes we have a 50-50 case, and Dad has a great relationship with the kids. Dad calls and he's like, I don't know what happened, but my wife called me and said, look, the kids don't want to come with you next week. They want to stay here. What do? I don't want to make my kids come if they don't want to come. Well, did anything happen? No, last time I talked to them, they were great. They said, Dad, we'll see you in a week. Then you make them come. You make them come. Because sometimes, especially with smaller children, they're going to placate the parent they're with. Well, do you really want to go to Daddy's? Because Mommy misses you so much when you're not here. I cry when you're not here. You don't have to go to your dad's, but just stay here. The kid's going to say, okay. But they really want to go. So sometimes parents will feel guilty. Well, I don't want to make them come. No, you make them come because they want to come. They want to come. And then they come. Dad has a conversation. Well, Dad, Mom said she cries when I'm with you, so I just, she said she wanted me to stay there, so I said I wanted to stay there. But I really did want to come and see you. So a lot of times the clients will call, but that order, that order's in place. No, the kids come. You make them come. Because sometimes you see the alienation, parent trying to alienate, but under a 50-50, it's harder to do because, like Jeff said, it takes time to alienate. And when both parents have that equal access, it's much more difficult to do.